Why successful people wake up early. Introduction in Muniba Mazari style. There comes a moment in life when the silence of the early morning speaks louder than the noise of the entire world. When the world is still asleep and the sky is painted in shades of hope, that is when the brave rise. That is when the brave rise. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. You see, it's not just about opening your eyes. It's about awakening your soul to purpose. It's about breaking the cycle of waiting. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for the right time. Waiting for someone to believe in you. But what if the right time is 5 a.m.? What if belief begins with you? In the quiet hours when the world isn't watching. There's something magical about waking up before the sun. It's where dreams are no longer dreams, but silent commits. It's where your fears meet your faiths, meet your faith. And in that sacred silence, a warrior is born. One who chooses discipline over comfort, vision over sleep, and growth over excuses. This isn't just about success. This is about rising from the ashes of your doubt, shaking hands with your pain, and telling the world, I will no longer sleep on the life I was meant to live. So, ask yourself, what are you really sleeping on? Discipline starts with the first light. Early hours bring clarity and focus. Silence of morning fuels self-reflection. Waking early builds consistency and control. Winners rise before the world does. Discipline starts with the first light. It's a phrase that sounds simple, yet it holds a depth most people never explore. Now, when the rest of the world is tucked into bed, wrapped in dreams and excuses, there are a few souls who choose to rise. Not because they have nothing else to do, but because they've decided to take control of their day before the day takes control of them. The very act of waking up early is a choice against comfort. It's a moment where the warmth of the blanket pulls you back, but your purpose whispers louder. Every morning, you face a battle between what's easy and what's necessary. And discipline, true discipline, is choosing the necessary again and again, even when no one is watching. Especially then, waking up early is more than just a habit. It's a declaration. A silent, personal vow to not let life happen to you, but to step into it with intention. It's a way of saying, I am not a prisoner of time, I am its master. The first light of day becomes your partner, not your deadline. In those early hours, you find moments that are untouched by chaos, distractions, or demands. You find yourself. Discipline is not built in grand gestures. It's born in the small choices we make every single day. Setting the alarm a little earlier. Refusing to hit snooze. Putting your feet on the floor when your mind is still half asleep. Each of these actions seems small, but together they form the foundation of something powerful, self-respect. And you keep the promise you made to yourself the night before. You start believing in your own strength. You start walking taller, thinking clearer, feeling braver. There is no applause in those early hours. No audience, no recognition. But that's the beauty of it. Because discipline is not about performing, it's about becoming. It's about showing up when it's hard, when it's dark, when no one else understands why you're doing what you're doing. It's about proving to yourself that your dreams matter enough to sacrifice sleep, comfort, and convenience. People often wonder how successful individuals manage to do more, to think sharper, to move faster. The truth is, they've learned to respect time in a way most people don't. And that respect begins with the decision to meet the day not at its peak, but at its beginning. Before the world places its weight on their shoulders, they've already stood up and claimed the day as their own. The discipline to wake early spills into every part of life. It sharpens your thinking, strengthens your willpower, and teaches you patience. It teaches you that success isn't about shortcuts. It's about consistency. It's about showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's when it counts the most. The first light is more than a sunrise. It's a test. A test of your commitment, your courage, your clarity. And how you respond to that test defines how you live, how you grow, and ultimately, how far you go. Early hours bring clarity and focus. There's something sacred about the time when the world is still, when the noise hasn't yet begun, and the sky carries the soft glow of dawn. In those moments, the clutter of daily life has not yet arrived. There are no calls to answer, no messages to respond to, no decisions demanding your immediate attention. It is just you, unfiltered, undistracted, and completely present. That's where clarity begins. When you wake up early, you step into a space that belongs only to you. It's a time when your mind is at its purest, untouched by the chaos that the day will inevitably bring. Your thoughts are not yet clouded by opinions, social media feeds, or the pressure of responsibilities. It's in this quiet space that you start to hear your own voice again, the one that gets drowned out during the day. You begin to remember what truly matters, what you're striving for, and who you want to become. Focus is a muscle, and like any muscle, it needs to be trained. In the early morning, without the distractions that normally scatter your attention, you give yourself the gift of full concentration. Whether it's working on a goal, planning your day, reading something that feeds your mind, or simply sitting with your thoughts, this is the time where deep work becomes possible. It's a different kind of productivity. Not rushed or reactive, but intentional and steady. You're not just doing things, you're doing the right things with presence and purpose. The clarity that comes in the early hours has a power of its own. It helps you see beyond the fog of temporary emotions. Problems that seemed overwhelming the night before suddenly seem manageable. Decisions that were weighing heavily start to feel lighter. In the silence, you gain perspective. You can separate what's urgent from what's important. You stop chasing and start choosing. Most people wake up straight into the middle of a storm. Emails, news, demands, deadlines. They jump into the chaos already behind, already anxious. But when you choose to wake up early, you don't just get ahead of the day. You own it. You design it. You give yourself time to think before you act, to breathe before you react, to prepare before you perform. That's what builds inner peace. That's what sharpens decision-making. That's what creates a focused, calm, and powerful presence. The early morning is not just about routine, it's about alignment. When you start your day with clarity, you don't get lost in distractions as easily. You make fewer mistakes, you waste less time, and you become more intentional in everything you do. You move through life with direction instead of drifting. You're not just surviving your day, you're steering it. There is a reason why so many successful people cherish the early morning. It's not because they're trying to impress anyone. It's because they've realized that the quiet hours give them a head start, not just in work, but in mindset. Clarity and focus are not luxuries, they're tools. Tools that are sharpened in silence, in stillness, in solitude. And there's no better time for that than when the world hasn't yet opened its eyes. Silence of morning fuels self-reflection. It's in those quiet hours, when the sky is still heavy with sleep, and the world hasn't yet begun to rush, that the most honest conversations with yourself begin. In a world that constantly demands attention, noise, movement, and reaction, the stillness of early morning is not just rare, it's sacred. It is a mirror, free from distortion, where your heart and mind can finally speak to each other without interruption. When you wake before the noise, you enter a space untouched by expectation. No messages to answer, no pressure to perform. Just the gentle rhythm of your breath and the soft whisper of your thoughts. It's in this moment of peace that you can truly begin to reflect, not just on what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Are you living your truth? Are you chasing dreams that belong to you, or ones the world handed you? These questions don't come to you in the middle of chaos. They come when the world is silent, and so are you. Self-reflection isn't about judgment. It's not about pointing out every flaw or failure. It's about connection. It's about looking inward and asking yourself what needs healing, what needs attention, and what needs change. In the rush of the day, we often push aside these emotions. But in the morning, when the light is soft and the world is still asleep, those truths surface gently. You begin to understand yourself with more compassion, more clarity, and more courage. The silence gives you space to remember what you've forgotten about yourself. The dreams you tucked away, the voice you silenced, the strength you underestimated. It brings back memories not to haunt you, but to teach you. It reminds you of your journey, your scars, your growth. It helps you see patterns in your thoughts and behaviors that you couldn't see before. This awareness is the seed of all change. You cannot grow what you do not see, and you cannot see in noise what you can only discover in silence. There is a quiet power in beginning your day with awareness. When you reflect before the day begins, you carry that insight with you into every action, every decision, every interaction. You move with more intention. You speak with more understanding. You listen with more empathy. You are not reacting to life. You are responding with purpose. Morning silence is also a space of gratitude. Not the kind that's written quickly in a journal as part of a checklist, but the kind that rises naturally when you feel deeply connected to your life. You begin to see how far you've come, despite everything. You remember the days you prayed for the things you have now. You find strength in the stillness, peace in your progress, and hope in the quiet realization that you're still becoming. There is nothing small about self-reflection. It's one of the most courageous things a person can do, facing themselves without distraction, without noise, without pretending. And there is no better moment to do that than when the world hasn't yet started pulling you in every direction. Waking early builds consistency and control. At first, it may feel like a small act, just an earlier alarm, a little less sleep, but over time it becomes something much deeper. It becomes a ritual of self-respect, a symbol of commitment, a sign that you are taking charge of your life. Every time you rise with intention, you are laying another brick on the road of discipline, forming a path that leads to stability, strength, and growth. Consistency doesn't come from grand declarations. It is built in the quiet, unnoticed moments. It's born when you choose to get up, even when you don't feel like it, when your body wants rest but your vision demands action, when your dreams are still too fragile to be seen by others, but you protect them by showing up anyway. That's where real consistency begins. It doesn't shout, it shows up. Every morning, every time. Control isn't about dominating others or forcing outcomes, it's about managing yourself. Waking up early teaches you that you can command your own time, your own energy, your own pace. You stop being reactive. You stop letting the world set your schedule and your mood. Instead, you choose your rhythm. You begin your day on your terms, not in panic and not in hurry, but with clarity and intention. That control is power, not over others, but over your own life. So much of success, whether it's personal, emotional, or professional, comes down to the simple question: can you trust yourself to follow through? When you wake early over and over again, you answer that question with action. Stop! You're not just forming a habit, you're rewriting your self-image. You start to see yourself as someone reliable, someone who does hard things, someone who leads their life rather than follows it. That kind of inner consistency becomes unshakable. It creates a foundation for everything else. There's also an emotional shift that happens when you make waking up early part of your identity. You don't feel like you're constantly behind or catching up. You start the day with a sense of achievement. Even if nothing else goes right, you've already won the first battle of the day, against distraction, against doubt. That momentum carries you forward. It builds confidence, not because everything is easy, but because you know you can do difficult things consistently. The beauty of control is that it spills into every area of your life. The way you handle challenges, the way you make decisions, the way you stay grounded under pressure, it all starts with how you begin your day. When you build that control through consistent morning rituals, you create a strong core within yourself. A place of balance, a place of quiet strength. And from that place, you lead your life with more peace, more purpose, and more presence. Most people wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. But those who wake early know the truth. Motivation fades, feelings change, but commitment remains. When you show up daily, even without the hype, you build something far more powerful than motivation. You build mastery. Mastery over your choices. Mastery over your habits. Mastery over your time. That is the heart of true consistency. And that is the path to real control. Winners rise before the world does. It's not just about waking up early. It's about what that early rise represents. It's a mindset. A silent promise made in the dark long before anyone else is watching that says, I am willing to do what others won't, so I can become what others don't. There is a different kind of energy in the morning hours, a rawness that is both humbling and powerful. And the ones who choose to meet the day in its earliest form are often the ones who shape it. There is no applause at 4 a.m. No spotlight, no recognition. It's just you and the quiet. You and the decision to get up when your body wants to stay down. That's where winning begins. Not on stages or in headlines, but in bedrooms and hallways, with sleepy eyes and determined hearts. Winners know that the habits formed in silence speak the loudest in the long run. They aren't waiting for the world to give them permission. They give it to themselves. While others are still dreaming, winners are already planning, practicing, reflecting, moving. They are using the time most waste. It's not about being better than others, it's about being better than who they were yesterday. That early morning effort is their edge. It's where they build discipline, set intentions, and fuel their ambitions before distractions can steal them away. It's where they find the calm to think deeply and the courage to act boldly. To rise before the world does is also an act of respect. For your goals, your time, your purpose. You're not rushing into the day unprepared. You're entering it with clarity, with stillness, and with control. You begin the day as a leader, not a follower. While others are reacting, you are creating. While others are rushing, you are aligning. This difference in approach changes everything. Because winners don't just work hard, they work smart. And the smartest thing you can do is begin the day before it begins you. The early hours give space for vision. It's where long-term goals are nurtured, not just daily tasks completed. It's where you hear the voice of your dreams clearer because the world's noise hasn't drowned them out yet. And it's where the gap between who you are and who you want to be feels a little smaller because every step taken in that silence brings you closer. Winners are not superhuman. They feel tired. They have doubts. They struggle like everyone else. But they make different choices. They choose action over excuses. They choose discomfort over delay. They choose growth over sleep. And they understand that greatness is not built in moments of comfort. It's carved out in moments of effort that no one sees. The world rewards those who dare to lead, and leadership begins with leading yourself. When you rise before the world, you are choosing to be the author of your own day. You're not leaving it to chance. You're not letting others decide how your time will be spent. You've claimed it, you've owned it, and that ownership shows up everywhere. In your work, your relationships, your mindset. Winners don't wait for perfect conditions. They rise in the dark, walk through the silence, and begin. Not because it's easy, but because they know the world belongs to those who are brave enough to meet it before it fully wakes up.